Well, hello, my name is Christine, and we are continuing our series on building with Claude Code. And in the last episode, we had a chance to use test-driven development to create the Backend API endpoints. And in this particular episode, we're going to make sure that everything is working correctly before we go into the step of trying to integrate the front end with the back end. So just to kind of give you a quick update, this is where we left off in terms of the implementation plan. And I know one thing that we did not do is we did not test out running the back end. And I probably want to test some of those API endpoints. So first things first, let me just go ahead and start it, the back end. And I know just because a little familiarity with NestJS is you usually just run npm run start dev to start the backend server. If you did not know what the answer was, you could potentially just ask Claude Code and it should give it to you. And so I see that there's some TypeScript errors in here. I could potentially just go ahead and copy this information in here and make sure that that's the one thing that you can do is just cut and paste again the errors and bring it into Claude and just drop those files in there, and hopefully you should be able to find what could be going wrong and fix it. And what it looks like is there's some TypeScript errors in there. And one thing that I noticed as I was looking at some of these files is I did not actually find that it's has a type checker just like we have in the front end. So after it's fixed some of these things, I'm just going to go ahead and ask this to create that as well. So go ahead and check if the errors are going away as we are putting those fixes in there, and going ahead saying yes to that. And it looks like the files are all running everywhere, and so it wants to do the type checker, but just to verify the build. But what I'm wanting to say is, I probably just wanted to say, can you set up a type check script? Front end, because I know in the front end we have that as well. So just have it set it up in the package.json so that we can just run it that way. I think what it was trying to do to run the build is because the run build actually does a type check. So it's put it in there. I actually just wanted to match what's in the front end. Say can you run it in build mode? I just basically wanted to match exactly. And just to kind of give you an idea what I'm thinking about is it was trying to run the build nest build just to check the stuff, and let's do yes. And so the package.json should have a new entry for type check, and let's just go ahead and have it run it just to make sure that there are no errors in there, and we should be good. There are no errors, and I'm just gonna say I have already started it. Yeah, it's already running. Okay, so I can go from there. And so now we have these build things running, and so now I want to basically test out the API endpoint. So let me ask it how to test that out. How can I test out the API endpoints without running unit tests? So let's see. So it says there's various options in here. I can use curl, I can use Postman or simple requests. So let me take this one. And the question is, where do I get the username and password that it's referring to? I remember way back when it had actually said that it had created N files with that information hard-coded for a single user. So if I go in here, I can see the user email and the user password is there. So I'm going to construct a curl endpoint to test this out. All right, so luckily I have this other terminal open and going ahead and saying it there. It says fail to connect to the port. So something is kind of like going a little off. Oh, I have API. I don't know what this thing is thinking about. Oh, you know what? I'm using warp, and warp sometimes does these other things, so I'm just going to cancel it. And I think my endpoint is incorrect. It should actually be without the API, and so let's do that again. So it's hit the endpoint. It says failed to connect to the local post. What could be going on? This is a mystery. This is very mysterious. It should be working. And I see no errors showing up here. Or are there? Oh, there are errors. It's got some errors saying failed to initialize the database schema. And looks like it's trying to get the schema from this file, from the dist file, which we haven't done a build yet, so that's kind of strange. So what I want to tell Claude to do is to try not to use files, because that's not really going to work when we deploy it to file IO. So I'll drop the error and then I'll just give it some hints of what it should do. So okay, so we have this error. Okay, have this error. We should probably not use file based SQL, as we'll be deploying to fly IO. Alright, so it's going to switch to using inline SQL instead of reading from a file, which is not a bad idea for now, and hopefully that will help with the errors that we're seeing when we're trying to start things up. Alright, so it's made everything happen inline and made that change, so I'm going to go here to this section and just basically restart and make sure it started without any errors in terms of the database, and that the database initialized properly. Okay, and if that's okay, and it looks like it's okay, just scrolling through it, I see some rejections. I can potentially try running this again and see if I'm able to that. I don't think, we still have something going on. Let me check. So coming back, as we start this, there's an error that we're seeing, and I think it's related to the URL. And if you look at the end file, the Tersa database URL hasn't been set up. Neither has the database actually been initialized. So my question that I'm going to ask Claude is, does the database URL and look correct, the end file, and does it need to be created? Because I suspect from previous things that it did not tell me those exact steps. So we need to create an end file, and also we'll need, so we do have the end file already. But I'm not sure the file is the right one. And if memory serves me correctly, it probably needs to be set up to something, so I want to use file. When you're doing it in production, then you can set up like the actual file, but for the local one, we can set up something locally. Admin password 123.end file. Okay, looks fine. I'll probably call it. Let's go. Oh yeah, no, that's not bad. Let's just go with what it says. So it's changed the file. So now it looks like this. and it's changed the password 123, and database service only add auth token for, I don't know if it's actually needed because it can be empty, but why not? We'll let it play with that. And then after that, how do I create a local Tesla database? Use context. I always like to say use, just so it gets the latest information, because it might not have it. All right, I asked it a few more questions, and it looks like it should be good to go. So I'm just going to restart the server. It gave me some other options that may not be relevant, so go ahead and go to my backend and just basically restart it. So, and at this point, alright, looks like the database is all set up and it should be running. And so at this point, I should be able to go here, but now I have to update the password as I try to test the API endpoint. Okay, so alright, so success, we've got this auth token, which we can now take and then use for any of our tests. And if you look back at what Claude gave me in terms of testing out subscriptions, creations, etc., I should be able to do that using Postman, which I much prefer. So I'm gonna basically take this and set it up in Postman. So Postman is a handy way to test this out, and like I said, we probably just need some information, including the access token here and some of the example requests in here. And as you can see, what I've done is I took the access token and put it over there, and I've created a bunch of different requests in here, and this particular one is just to get all of the subscriptions, and hopefully this works out pretty good. And from a local host, it's got all of the subscriptions, Spotify, Netflix, that matches the UI as well. And okay, so we've got some entries in here, and I could just pick, say, any one of these, and hopefully be able to say get an individual subscription. So that was Adobe Creative Cloud. So if I get that, do I have it? 3.5, no, 3.5 here. Yeah, and then I hit send. Internal server error, or maybe that's not the actual URL to get a particular one. Let me just quickly double check that. I just had to cut and paste it one more time and it worked well. Let's say I wanted to create a brand new subscription. Again, I could here, giving the example, creating one with header with just the required fields and then send it over. It says it cannot post, that's because I got the URL wrong. And save that and send. And now we've got a new one for header. The plan is null, and all of those different pieces of it. I can definitely update this depending. I can just take the ID that I have in here as well and get it into, if I just wanted to update, say, a particular one. And here in this particular update, I'm just gonna have something related to the price being increased. And it says cannot put subscription. Let's see. It should have worked pretty well. Let's make sure that we can actually get this particular one. So say send. Oh, maybe it's called a patch, not a put. So let's call a patch. Okay, so the patch is the way you call it, and then you've seen that the notes have now been updated. And you can definitely delete a particular subscription. Let's go ahead and delete the same one. Actually, let's just make sure that it was in here. So I want to go ahead, and the last one should be header, because that's the one that we just added. And if we delete it and we go back and relist it again, we should not have header. So we basically tested all of the API endpoints, and now it should be ready from the front end to actually make those same calls. Well, this was a bit of a longer session as usual. We're wrangling with just testing out a few things, ran into some issues with the backend probably just not being completely finished and polished, but we're able to go through and test our API endpoints through Postman. So we're pretty confident that the front end should work pretty well. So in the next episode, we are going to take that next step and see how we can get the data from the front end to the back end and tie out, if we have time, the synchronization logic. So looking forward to another episode with you as we continue our series on building with Claude Code.